Hi everybody, welcome to my podcast. Talking about crying today, about the tears, and there were a lot of tears. If you had a childhood abuse situation, I'd always call them the baby tears, the tears that you wanted to cry, or you did cry and then you got hit, and some of us learnt how not to cry and hold on to them, and they get caught in your throat actually. They're kind of stuck there, and you might be that person. I don't know if you've had this, but if you get upset, you get this incredible pain in your throat. It's like something strangling you, and I think that's the emotion from the abuse. You will cry a lot. You'll cry all over the place. I've been crying for years, and I still have moments when I'm doing the next bit and I cry. It's okay, it's good. I just see it as letting it go. There's no tears inside me that I'm making up. They're all real. So everything I cry is all the stuff I couldn't cry about before. So don't think you're weak or not coping or a big mess. You're just letting it out. That's all you're doing. You're letting it out and you're having a big cry about it. I found that I'd cry a lot. Some of the sections I cried, and sometimes they were like really sad tears, like crying. Oh my God, I can't believe that I went through that and the feeling I had, and crying, just running out of your face. And I suggest you just let yourself cry till it finishes. Don't try and stop it. I usually like to cry on my own. It's a little bit easier, I find, because when I'm having a big cathartic cry session, it could be 40 minutes and I just cry. And I let myself cry until there's no more tears, and usually then it's time to go to bed or whatever. It's a good thing to let yourself cry like that, let it go itself, because what you've done is you've opened up a little block of emotion of all the terrible things from that abuse that you had to hold on to, and now you're letting it out, which is really great for you and for your mind and your body. It's a really great thing. It does not feel great, I'll tell you. Crying doesn't feel great. Sometimes you'll also cry in inappropriate moments. You'll be somewhere publicly, something will touch it and you'll start to cry. You can excuse yourself or whatever, but I kind of feel you can't always control it, so don't worry about it. Also, if you're in a relationship, you'll find that you'll cry about things that are similar to your childhood particularly, and maybe you've had other relationships as an adult that were abusive. You might in this new one now cry. Many people cry after sex, and I think that's because it's kind of a letdown, and you'll cry after sex. I never understood it at first, but now I do. And the more I worked on my stuff, the less I did that. It just sort of went away and would only happen occasionally. So if you're doing that, you're not crazy. It's just that on a part of you just lets it go, and you just have a fair bit of a cry. I just find the tears just started running out my eyes and I couldn't stop them. There will also be angry tears. You might find you cry and you feel hot. The tears even feel hot actually, and that's because you are angry because what's been done to you, and that crying you have when you're so mad that you actually cry. Let those out too. They're really important, those ones, because the anger's caught in the body. In a sense, it's grief. I always feel it's like grief. It's the loss of what you could have had. And even now, when I talk, I can feel it. Because you lost your childhood. And then you lost your relationship, all because of the abuse. Just because they wouldn't come from love, just because they come from power and control and being mean. And so I'm going to leave this in on this podcast because this just happened. I didn't expect it, see? I just think you need to understand you're grieving what you didn't have. And if you had a terrible childhood and either reclaiming and remembering it, or you've always known it and now dealing with it, it's still sad. You should have had a great childhood. It should have been good and kind to you, and it should have been wonderful, and it wasn't. So you'll have grief about the loss. And then in the adult relationship, the person said they loved you. They should have treated you well. They shouldn't have become abusive. And so you'll have grief about that, and people don't talk about grief and abuse, but I think they go together. And that's what the tears are. You see, that's the grief. That's the loss of what you look back and you wished you could have had. You know, you wanted to have the happy childhood. You wanted to have the happy relationship with the happy ending. And if you're listening to these podcasts, you didn't get it, baby. And then I just want you to understand that's why you're going to have the tears, and the tears are fine. And they're okay that you have these tears. So don't worry about the tears. They're just going to be the way they are. I wanted to do this podcast. I didn't expect to get upset on it, but maybe that's a good thing. I've cleared a little bit more off. You helped me with that. But I want you to let yourself cry. That's the most important thing you can do. You let yourself cry and let yourself be how you are, and let yourself express yourself because you weren't allowed to. And you'll find that all the tears are different. You'll probably notice the difference in them. Sometimes it'll just be a little breakdown or just cry, but other times you might cry for a couple of hours even in the middle of the night. If you're with somebody, it's all right to excuse yourself and go and be in the other room and have a bit of a cry while they're sleeping. It's okay. It's a letting go. It's a letting out. It's release. It's great. All those tears that are coming out, it's great because you're basically going, you know what, I'll get to express myself now. And I think your throat will clear because I think they get caught in the throat. Of course, it's in your heart, but it gets caught in your throat. I want you to let it out. I want you to cry if you need to cry. It's also kind of good to journal at the same time when you're crying. Make sure you can still read it afterwards because of all the tears, but you can do that as well. And writing poetry is also good to express yourself. You'll be amazed when you go back and read how you can really feel it. So this is something we need to do as part of the process of getting better, and I wish you well with it. I'm sending you lots of love and lots of light.